Hi everyone. Let us continue with the chapter Reproduction in Organisms Part 5. And in the previous video we have learnt about the fertilization events, and now we are going to talk about the post-fertilization events. So what are post-fertilization events? The events in sexual reproduction that are formed after the formation of zygote, they are called as post-fertilization events. And this formation of zygote is normally universal in all sexually reproducing organisms. And normally those organisms which undergo external fertilization, the zygote is formed outside the body of the organism, where in the external medium. So that is normally usually water. And in those organisms where internal fertilization takes place, the zygote is formed inside the body of the organisms. So it is not the same in all the individuals. And here especially when you talk about this fungi and algae, examples are organisms such as fungi and algae. Normally what happens here is the zygote forms a thick wall. It develops a thick wall here. The zygote develops a thick wall. So what is the function of the thick wall is? It is resistant to desiccation and damage. It is resistant to desiccation and damage. Right? Likewise, in organisms that undergo haplontic life cycle, so what happens in those organisms? This zygote, it undergoes meiotic division. So what is meiotic division? Reduction division. So when the zygote divides, it develops many spores which are haploid in nature. The zygote produces, or the zygote undergoes meiotic division and produces haploid spores. So later these haploid spores will develop into haploid individuals, right? Whereas in sexually reproducing organisms, in the case of female, when the zygote is developed, after the formation of zygote, the zygote undergoes mitotic division. So it produces many number of cells where the development take place, many tissues, right? So tissues develop into organ, and finally an organism is developed. So this zygote, it acts as a vital link which ensures the continuation of species from one generation to the other generation. So this is special about this zygote. So next is, after the formation of zygote, embryogenesis takes place. So what is embryogenesis? What do you mean by the term embryogenesis? Formation of embryo, or the development of embryo from the zygote. The development of embryo from the zygote, or the process of the development of the embryo. The process of the development of embryo from the zygote is called as embryogenesis. So in this case, here what happens? Very special about the development of the embryo. So you would have learned about viviparous and oviparous. So what are oviparous? Right? And what are viviparous? So here these organisms are classified based on the development of the zygote, whether it is outside or the inside. So here when the development of the egg takes place, whether it is a fertilized egg or whether it is an unfertilized egg, or whether the organisms give birth to young ones. So based on these characters, it is divided into oviparous and viviparous. So example for oviparous and viviparous: reptiles and birds. So what happens here? The birds, they lay eggs which is a fertilized egg here. So there is a shell which is formed. That shell, it is called as a calcareous shell. So if the shell is present, such type of eggs are called as cleidoic eggs. Okay, then what are non-cleidoic eggs if the shell is absent? Very good example is frog. There is no shell. In that case, you call it as non-cleidoic eggs. Then what are viviparous animals, right? Very good example again here, it is human being, where the development of the zygote takes place inside the body of the female, internal fertilization. After that, the zygote develops into embryo. So that is what here you call it as development of embryo from the zygote. After that, the embryo undergoes development and then it is called as a fetus. So the baby will be born. So such organisms, when they give birth to young ones, they are called as viviparous organisms. Right? So this is seen in animals. What about in plants? Plants, what happens? After pollination, fertilization take place. So where is fertilization? Where does fertilization occur? It occurs inside the ovary. So what happens here? The male gamete and the female gamete fuses, zygote is formed. So zygote develops into an embryo. So here, after fertilization, what are the post-fertilization changes which occurs in plants? Zygote develops into embryo. So these are the post-fertilization changes in plants, especially in plants, flowering plants, right? Zygote develops into embryo, ovary develops into fruit, ovule develops into seed, and then all integuments, inner integument and the outer integument develops into seed coat. And what happens to the petal, sepal? All those will shrivel and fall off. But the pistil alone remains there, where the development of fruit takes place. And when dispersal of seeds occurs, the seeds develop into a new plant. They germinate and develop into a new plant. So, in today's portion, we have studied about post-fertilization events in organisms and after the formation of zygote, what happens, embryogenesis take place, and then we have learned about post-fertilization changes in plants also. If you like this video, share, comment and subscribe my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook and Insta. Thank you.